Currently, Quinn Ewers, the #1 player in this year's recruiting class, is a 1.000 rated recruit. This is special because if Ewers can hold on to that rating, he will join a list of 5 other players to do so. But who are the 5 players and what happened to them? Rashan Gary was born on December 3rd, 1997 and grew up in northern New Jersey. At age 11, Gary measured to be 6 feet and 240 pounds and was forced to play up an age division. His first Division I offer came from Rutgers as an 8th grader, and Gary started his high school football career at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School before he transferred to New Jersey powerhouse Paramus Catholic High School his junior year, when he moved from Scotch Plains, where he lived with his father, to Plainfield with his mother. Gary's original high school claimed that he was recruited by Paramus Catholic to transfer, which is against NJSIAA rules. The NJSIAA unanimously ruled that Scotch Plains had not proven the allegations. As a junior, Gary recorded 55 tackles and 14 sacks and was named New Jersey Defensive Player of the Year. As a senior, Gary recorded 55 tackles, 29 tackles for a loss, 4 forced fumbles, and returned a blocked punt for a touchdown in 9 games. Gary was once again named New Jersey Defensive Player of the Year, while also being named USA Today Defensive Player of the Year and a high school All-American. Gary finished his high school career playing in the Under Armour All-American game, where he recorded 6 tackles and 3 sacks, resulting in being named the MVP of the game. Coming out of high school, Gary was the #1 player in the country for his class of 2016. He finished as the most recent 1.0000 rated player according to 24/7 Sports Composite, and the 3rd player in the country to be unanimously named the #1 player by all 4 major recruiting networks: 24/7 Sports, ESPN, Rivals, and Scouts. The other 2 players were Robert Nkemdiche in 2013 and Jadeveon Clowney in 2011. I will be talking about those players later in this video. According to Scouts Mike Olson, no high school player is ever a can't-miss prospect, but Gary comes as close to that as a defensive lineman can. Gary received over 30 different Division I offers from the who's who of college football. Many believed Gary's decision came down between Michigan and Clemson. Michigan had hired Chris Patridge, a former high school coach at Gary's, as the director of player personnel and recruiting, later promoting him to the linebacker and special teams coach in January of 2016. After taking visits to Auburn, Clemson, Michigan, Ole Miss, and USC, Gary decided to commit to the Wolverines. After Gary returned to the green room, his mother whispered just loud enough for USA Today Network New Jersey columnist Darren Cooper to hear, "We did it. We did it. My son is a Michigan man." Gary played in all 13 games as a freshman, recording 27 tackles, 5 tackles for a loss, and 1 sack. As a sophomore, Gary started all 13 of Michigan's games, recording 66 tackles, 12 tackles for a loss, and 6 sacks. He earned all Big Ten honors as well as academic all Big Ten honors and the recipient of the Richard Katcher Award, which is given to the most outstanding Michigan defensive lineman or outside linebacker. Going into Gary's junior year, there were high expectations for the New Jersey product, being named AP preseason 2nd team All-American and named to several award watch lists. Unfortunately, Gary dealt with a shoulder injury that caused him to see limited time in September and miss all of October. He finished the season recording 38 tackles, 6.5 tackles for a loss, and 3 sacks in 9 games, which was good enough to be named All Big Ten first team. After the season, Gary declared for the NFL draft and was projected to be a top 10 pick. Gary started his own sports agency and was drafted 12th overall by the Green Bay Packers. In 2 seasons, Gary has recorded 56 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, 7 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, and 11 quarterback hits in 31 career regular season games. Robert Nkemdiche was born on September 19, 1994, and grew up in the Atlanta, Georgia area. His brother Denzel played linebacker at Ole Miss. This will become relevant later in the story. Nkemdiche attended Grayson High School, which is east of Atlanta. While at Grayson, Robert would be a 3-sport athlete playing football and basketball while also competing on the track and field team. While competing for the track team as a junior, Robert earned 2nd place for shot put and discus at the Gwinnett County Track and Field Championship. As a sophomore, Nkemdiche was named the Sophomore All-American, recording 19 sacks. Nkemdiche played running back on offense and defensive end on defense. As a junior, he rushed for 528 yards and 17 touchdowns while recording 59 tackles and 18 sacks. He would be a key player, helping Grayson go 15-0, winning the Class 5A state title game while finishing 4th nationally by the USA Today. Nkemdiche was named the All-Class Player of the Year, Gwinnett Daily Post County Defensive Player of the Year, and Touchdown Club of Gwinnett Athlete of the Year, along with being named an All-American by USA Today. As a senior, Nkemdiche recorded 59 tackles, 12 tackles for a loss, and 7 sacks, while rushing for 235 yards and 10 touchdowns on the ground. Early in the season, Nkemdiche and Grayson played Miami Central, which was led by Dalvin Cook, beating them 35-3 on ESPN. Grayson would go on to win the Region 8 6A championship before they would be upset in the second round of the playoffs, finishing the season 10-2. Nkemdiche was named an Under Armour, USA Today, Max Prep, and Super Prep All-American selection and finished his high school career with 41 career sacks. According to 24/7 Sports Composite, Nkemdiche was the #1 player in the nation with a 1.0000 rating. He received over 14 Division I offers from the likes of Alabama, Clemson, Florida, LSU, and Ole Miss. Robert Nkemdiche originally committed to Clemson, and it looked like he was going to be joining a handful of Grayson teammates in Death Valley. Like I mentioned earlier, Nkemdiche's older brother played linebacker and safety at Ole Miss. It originally looked like Denzel was going to flame out at Ole Miss, which according to SB Nation, he came really close to doing. Robert's mother wanted her sons playing together in college. One rival SEC recruiter came out and said, once it was clear that the brother wasn't transferring out, the race was really over. Newly hired head coach Hugh Freeze had one job according to Nkemdiche's mom: show improvement and keep her boys together. As a result, Nkemdiche committed to play football at Ole Miss in the class that included Laramie Tunsil and Laquan Treadwell. The what-if situation that people are thinking about is, what if Robert Nkemdiche was on the defensive line for Clemson during the 2016 National Championship game? Nkemdiche became an impact player immediately as a freshman, playing in 11 games and making 10 starts. He missed the LSU and Idaho game with a strained hamstring and finished the season recording 34 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 2 pass breakups, and 3 quarterback hurries, while also rushing the ball 5 times for 32 yards. He was named a freshman All-American and to the SEC All-Freshman team. As a sophomore, Nkemdiche started every game for Ole Miss at defensive tackle, recording 35 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, and a pass breakup. Ole Miss defense led the nation in scoring defense and led the SEC in tackles for a loss. Nkemdiche was named second-team All-American by multiple media outlets and All-SEC first team. As a junior, Nkemdiche started 11 games for Ole Miss, recording 26 tackles, 7 tackles for a loss, 3 sacks, and 1 pass deflection, while also having 2 rushing touchdowns. Nkemdiche finished the season becoming the first defensive lineman to be a finalist for the Hornung Award, which goes to the nation's most versatile player, along with first-team All-American and All-SEC first team. His career would end on a sour note, though, being suspended for the Sugar Bowl. Some NFL teams had concerns around Nkemdiche's family, along with some other things, but he would be taken 29th overall in the 2016 NFL Draft. Nkemdiche has not been able to get a footing in the NFL, dealing with some injuries. He played with the Cardinals from 2016 to 2019, being waived on July 28, 2019. The Dolphins would sign him on August 8th that year before releasing him on November 5th, 2019. Most recently, he signed with the Seattle Seahawks on April 29th of this year. Jadeveon Clowney was born on February 14, 1993, and grew up in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Everyone knew Clowney was going to be a special player from a young age. When Clowney was 8 years old, he towered over the kids his same age on the Pee Wee fields. Clowney played defensive end, linebacker, and running back that season. His future high school coach recalled a time Clowney ran the ball for 30 yards, dragging another player on his back. By the time he reached the end zone, there were 4 other players hanging on him. Clowney was held out of hitting drills, with coaches afraid he was going to kill someone. Stephon Gilmore, who is 2 years older, recalls watching Clowney play Pop Warner, saying, when he played small fry, no one wanted to tackle him. Then he'd come up there and practice with us, and no one wanted to tackle him either. Clowney was supposed to attend Northwest High School in Rock Hill, but there were some changes in school zones, which led to him playing for South Point. When Clowney was a freshman, he scored 30 touchdowns at running back and played defensive line during passing situations. Head coach Bobby Carroll believed Clowney's future was on defense. At first, Clowney did not like that idea and was going to quit football. Carroll didn't flinch and continued lobbying for him to make the change. Clowney reluctantly agreed, which he now believes was the best decision of his life. Ellis Johnson, who was working at South Carolina at the time, had come to scout Stephon Gilmore. Before Johnson left, Carroll told him about Clowney, who was a freshman at the time. Johnson couldn't believe that Clowney was a freshman and wrote down his name, underlining it a handful of times. When he was a sophomore, he impressed teammates with his athleticism, and Gilmore talked about a time Clowney caught him from behind in practice. Clowney recorded 120 tackles and 20 sacks that season as a sophomore, while South Point went 15-0, winning the 4A Division II title, beating rival Northwest High at Memorial Stadium, where Clemson plays, 35-14, and finishing number 3 in the nation according to Max Preps. Clowney played most of that season with a bone spur injury on his foot as well. As a junior, Clowney recorded 144 tackles and 23 sacks as South Point went 10-4. As a senior, Clowney recorded 162 tackles, 29.5 sacks, 29 tackles for a loss, 11 forced fumbles, and 6 fumble recoveries, while scoring 5 touchdowns on defense. He also rushed for 277 yards and 9 touchdowns on 32 carries at running back. He helped guide South Point to a 13-2 record, finishing as the state runner-ups. Clowney was named Defensive Player of the Year by USA Today and Mr. Football in the state of South Carolina. Coming out of high school, Clowney had offers from nearly every BCS powerhouse. He was the best player in his class, receiving the 1.0000 rating, and to many, Clowney was the best high school recruit ever. Tom Luganbill told The Athletic, "I've been doing this for 16 years, and if you're just going on pure talent, he's number one. If you mix measurables, height, weight, speed, agility, blah blah blah, with ability level, I think he's clear-cut number one of all the guys we have done." Rather than verbally committing somewhere, Clowney decided to make his college decision live on ESPN on National Signing Day, which also happened to be his birthday. Clowney became the third straight South Carolina Mr. Football to choose South Carolina, picking the Gamecocks over Alabama, Clemson, Florida State, and LSU. Clowney wanted to play in the SEC, and he actually had made his decision a week beforehand, but didn't tell anybody. A few days before his decision, there was a New York Times article questioning whether he was going to academically qualify, but Clowney said he had no concerns about that. He also ran track, threw, and played basketball in high school. As a freshman, Clowney became the first freshman to start on the defensive line since Travion Robertson in 2007. Clowney finished his freshman season recording 36 tackles, 12 tackles for a loss, 8 sacks, and 5 forced fumbles. He was named SEC Freshman of the Year, All-SEC Second Team, and Freshman All-American by multiple media outlets. Clowney proved to be the best defensive player in college football, recording 54 tackles, 23.5 tackles for a loss, 3 forced fumbles, and a school record 13 sacks. He recorded 4.5 sacks on Taj Boyd in the rivalry game against Clemson, and became famous on a massive hit on the Michigan running back during the Outback Bowl. Clowney was named the unanimous All-American and won the Ted Hendricks Award while finishing 6th in Heisman voting. After the season, he was named 2012 AT&T All-American Player of the Year. Going into his junior year, Clowney was the favorite to win the Heisman, but he was plagued with minor injuries throughout the beginning of the season, causing him to have a slow start to the season. Clowney finished a slightly disappointing season with 39 tackles, 11.5 tackles for a loss, 3 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. He was named to the All-SEC team, and after the season decided to enter the NFL Draft, where he was drafted first overall by the Houston Texans. Throughout his NFL career, Clowney has been plagued with injuries, playing only 1 full season in his career in 7 seasons. He's recorded 32 sacks and 86 quarterback hits in his career in 83 regular season games, playing for the Texans, Seahawks, Titans, and most recently signing with the Cleveland Browns. Ernie Sims II was born on December 23, 1984, and grew up in Tallahassee, Florida. Sims attended North Florida Christian High School, where he would earn a varsity letter as an 8th grader, something that is extremely rare. Sims played both ways in high school, playing running back on offense and linebacker on defense. Sims played in the Class A, the smallest classification in Florida high school football, where he would letter 5 times and lead the Eagles to 4 state championships from 1998 to 2001. As a junior, Sims recorded 180 tackles, 41 tackles for a loss, 12 sacks, and 7 forced fumbles, while rushing for 600 yards and 17 touchdowns on offense. As a senior, Sims recorded 133 tackles, 156 tackles for a loss, 6 forced fumbles, 7 fumble recoveries, and a blocked field goal on defense, while rushing for 1,081 yards and 23 touchdowns on 115 carries on offense. However, his high school would lose 19-14 in the regional semifinals of the Class A playoffs, making it the only year they didn't go to the state championship. Sims earned All-American honors from USA Today and Parade and was rated as a 5-star recruit by Rivals. He was rated higher than Reggie Bush and Whitney Lewis, and the only linebacker to earn the 1.0000 rating as a linebacker. He was recruited by almost every school in the nation, but took official visits to Auburn, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, and Miami. On National Signing Day, Sims chose his hometown Florida State Seminoles over the Florida Gators. Sims had deep connections with Florida State, with multiple family members playing sports for the Seminoles. When he got to Florida State, Sims wore the number 34, which had been retired in honor of former Seminoles football player Ron Seller. But Sellers gave Sims permission to wear the number. As a true freshman, Sims played in all 13 of Florida State's games as a backup linebacker, even playing in the Orange Bowl. Sims finished the season with 42 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, 2 pass breakups, 3 quarterback hurries, and a forced fumble. He also played well on special teams for the Seminoles. He broke into the starting lineup during the second week of his sophomore season and finished the season with 86 tackles, 9 tackles for a loss, 4.5 sacks, 9 quarterback hurries, 5 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, and a blocked kick. He recorded double-digit tackles against North Carolina, Duke, and Florida. He was named second-team All-ACC and first-team All-American. Going into his junior year, expectations were high for Sims, with him being named a preseason All-American. Sims finished the season with 72 tackles, 10 tackles for a loss, 2.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, and a pass deflection. Going into the 2006 NFL Draft, Sims was viewed as a 3-down linebacker who played bigger than his size. The Detroit Lions would select Sims 9th overall in the first round. Sims started all 16 games of his rookie season at outside linebacker, recording 124 tackles, half a sack, and a pass deflection. Sims played for the Lions from 2006 to 2009 before being traded to the Philadelphia Eagles on April 19, 2010. Sims played in 15 games, recording 55 total tackles, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, and 5 pass deflections. In 2011, Sims signed with the Colts, recording 61 tackles in 13 games. He would then sign with the Cowboys after Sean Lee got hurt. He would play 2 seasons with the Cowboys and sign a 1-year deal with the Cardinals before he was released before the season. After he retired, Sims returned to Florida State to finish his degree. He then started his coaching career as an assistant strength and conditioning intern at FAU under Lane Kiffin. Sims was then promoted to Director of Player Development in 2019. Now, Sims is the current linebacker coach at the University of South Florida, being promoted in January of 2021. Vince Paul Young Jr. was born on May 18, 1983, and grew up in the Houston, Texas area. Young grew up in the Hiram Clark neighborhood in Houston and was primarily raised by his mother and grandmother. Young credits them from keeping him from joining a gang. When Young was 7, he was hit by a car while riding a bicycle, which nearly killed him and left him hospitalized. Young believes going through that situation made him a tougher individual. In high school, Vince Young would go on to become a Texas high school football legend at Madison High School. Young had the talent to play on varsity his freshman year, but head coach Ray Seals wanted him to learn the game more extensively before he played against the older upperclassmen. Instead, Young played for the freshman team, which was led by offensive line coach Pat Reineke. Reineke told the Waco Tribune, "As a freshman, he made me look good. We had a lot of talent and it started with him. It really didn't matter what we called. I remember a play that he must have ran 50 yards and only gained about 15. He'd go right, then go left and forward. He was running all over the field against their whole team." Young would take over the varsity starting quarterback job as a sophomore, playing in a veer offense that relied heavily on Young's running ability. Seals also wanted Young to learn to become a patient passer, telling the Waco Tribune he had to learn to sit in the pocket. When someone came up to him, he just wanted to go outside. He had to learn how to take a proper step and throw it. But he was one of those kids who came to practice early and stayed late. As a sophomore, Young threw for 1,006 yards and 10 touchdowns while also rushing for 730 yards on the ground. As a junior, Young threw for 1,309 yards and 16 touchdowns while also rushing for 760 yards and 14 touchdowns on the ground. He helped the offense average 49 points per game and was named District Offensive Player of the Year. As a senior, the legend of Vince Young had grown so much that people flocked from all over to watch him play. The high school stadiums were usually too small to hold the crowds, so Madison played 9 games at the Astrodome, with Seals recalling the smallest crowd being 20,000 people. When Madison played North Shore in the Class 5A Division I state quarterfinals, over 40,000 fans attended and both schools delivered. At the time, Madison was the #1 high school in the nation, while North Shore was ranked 5th. Young threw for 177 yards and 3 touchdowns, while also rushing for 192 yards and 3 more scores on the ground in a 61-58 shootout win. Seals recalls the game telling the Waco Tribune, "I remember telling Vincent that if we had to punt one time, we were going to lose it. He said, 'Don't worry, coach.' Vincent made plays when he had to make them." Unfortunately, Young's high school career would come to an end in a 48-42 loss to Austin Westlake the following week in the semifinals. Young threw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns while rushing for 92 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Young finished his senior year nearly accounting for 4,000 yards and 60 touchdowns, throwing for 2,540 yards, 35 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, while also rushing for 1,274 yards and 24 touchdowns on the ground. He was named Parade Student Sports National Player of the Year and 2001 Texas 5A Offensive Player of the Year. Young also played basketball, baseball, and ran on the track team. While a part of the basketball team, Young averaged 25 points per game throughout his career. He played 2 seasons of baseball, spending time pitching and playing in the outfield. In track, Young was a part of 2 district championship 400-meter relay squads and was named to All-State. When it came to recruiting, Vince Young became the first player ever to receive the 24/7 Sports Composite rating of 1.0000. Being so highly rated out of high school, Young was the most highly recruited player in the country and overrun by college recruiters his junior and senior year. Reineke told the Waco Tribune, "One day you'd see former Miami coach Butch Davis in Coach Seals' office, and then another day you'd see former Texas coach Mack Brown. You'd look around and see all these guys you see on TV." But Seals really prepared Vincent on how to handle the recruiting process and how to handle the pressure. Seals had Young narrow down his choices of college to 5 by his senior year, and coaches were only allowed to call Young 2 days a week while recruiting him. Young would ultimately choose his home state, Texas Longhorns, where he would go on to have a fantastic career. Young would redshirt his freshman year at Texas and went into the 2003 season as the backup quarterback behind Chance Mock. Halfway through the season, Mock was benched during the Oklahoma game and Young came in for relief. The rest of the season, the two alternated playing time. Young finished the season playing in 12 games, starting 7 of them, and going 7-1 as a starter. Young was named Big 12 Offensive Freshman of the Year, along with a slew of other awards, throwing for 1,155 yards and 6 touchdowns, while also rushing for 998 yards and 11 touchdowns on the ground. Going into the 2004 season, Young was listed on multiple award watch lists. He started all 12 of Texas's games, leading them to an 11-1 record, with their only loss to Oklahoma, who went to the national title game that year. Young threw for 1,849 yards and 12 touchdowns, while also rushing for 1,079 yards and 14 touchdowns. He led Texas to the Rose Bowl, beating Michigan and being named the game MVP. As well as that, he was named Honorable Mention All Big 12. Going to Young's senior year, there were a lot of high expectations for the Houston product, and he delivered. Young started all 13 of Texas's games, throwing for 3,036 yards and 26 touchdowns, while rushing for 1,050 yards and 12 touchdowns on the ground. Young won the Maxwell Award, Davey O'Brien Award, and Manning Award. He was named the ABC Sports Player of the Year and Big 12 Player of the Year as well. Young finished as the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy behind Reggie Bush, but got revenge in the national championship game when he scored the game-winning touchdown against USC with 19 seconds left to win 41-38. Young showed up in the biggest stage of his life, accounting for 467 total yards of offense and 3 touchdowns. In his career at Texas, Young would go 30-2 as a starter, which ranked number 1 in school history until he was passed by his successor. Young was also named the 10th greatest college football player of all time by ESPN. After his junior year, Young would declare for the NFL draft, where he was taken 3rd overall by the Tennessee Titans. Young came into the NFL with high expectations but could never get things going. He would win the 2006 Offensive Rookie of the Year award and was named a Pro Bowler, but the rest of his career he struggled with injuries and turnovers. Young played his last official snap for the Philadelphia Eagles in 2011 before officially retiring from football in 2014. Young tried to make a football comeback in 2017 in the CFL, but was derailed by a hamstring injury. In 2020, Young announced he had a book and documentary about his life in the works to tell his story from his perspective. In February, Young announced that he was working as a special assistant for the University of Texas Athletic Department. Looking at the past 5 1.0000 rated high school prospects, Quinn Ewers will have a strong college career if history repeats itself, but will look to break the NFL struggles post-college. But what do you think? Who is your favorite 1.0000 rated college prospect over the past 20 years? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out my other videos in the Who Is series. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get to 5K subscribers by the end of June, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.